When US pop star Selena Gomez fell sick with an autoimmune disease, her best friend stepped up to donate a kidney. Could you do the same for your bestie? In many African countries, organ donation is taboo, even when it can save lives and advance scientific research. I am Fatu Eli Kamuloshi, and on today's show, we are asking, would you give up your organs to save a life? Welcome to the show. Coming up on the show, in Uganda, we asked a diverse group of youths what they'd prefer, to donate or decay. In Kenya, we look at an illegal organ trafficking scheme targeting vulnerable young people. And our correspondents shed light on laws and ethics around donation across Africa. Donating an organ can save a life, but donating your body to science can shape healthcare for generations. In Uganda, medical students rely on unclaimed bodies since there is no voluntary donation policy. Sometimes 10 students share one cadaver, hurting the quality of their training. Now, one professor is pushing for a new law to change that. But will Ugandans be willing to contribute? Let's find out.
So what happens when we die? Science says the system shuts down. The body stops working, and now there is a twist. Did you know that science has its own version of life after death? Not for your soul, but at least for your body.
They call him the silent teacher.
This vertebral column is going to run from here.
In a medical classroom in Uganda, East Africa, a real human skeleton lies still, a quiet contributor to medical discovery.
Then there are those ones which are in the chest region.
To have a feeling of a human being, we need to work within a future of a human being, and that can be a cadaver.
Mordecai Waziu leads the Uganda Anatomy Society. This morning, he guides medical students through lessons on life taught by the remains of the dead.
This spine also has 2 points.
That's why you have the time to experiment, to learn different things, to make mistakes.
I can't dissect a mannequin and actually get to the real nitty-gritties and the details of the tissues, the nerves, the veins, as they are in a human body.
But where do these silent teachers come from? Unlike in places like South Africa, Europe, or the United States, where formal body donation programs are well established, in Uganda, medical students have mostly learned from unclaimed bodies, turning them into their teachers with reverence and dignity.
We're advancing, things are changing in the world.
Professor Erisa Mwaka heads the Department of Anatomy at Makerere University College of Health Sciences in Kampala. It is Uganda's oldest medical school and one of Africa's most respected, known among others for its groundbreaking research in infectious diseases like malaria, TB, HIV/AIDS, and contributions to Ebola response. Mwaka has a special passion for medical ethics. He believes it is better for individuals to pledge their bodies to science willingly and with consent, rather than relying on bodies that never consented.
There is what we call altruism, whereby actually for the good, for the greater good of humanity, people volunteer, for example, to donate blood, to participate in research.
Of course, not everyone agrees. Many say, when I die, do not touch my body. Others say, leave the matter to the ancestors. But there are those who say, well, I could be gone, but I could still be relevant and help the living.
One Ugandan who is ready to answer that call is Ronald Sima, a father of 2 in his 40s.
Recently, I heard they were advertising onto the news and they're calling people to go and be volunteers for the HIV/AIDS vaccine. Those are heroes. This body just sitting there. Yet if it belongs to a science fraternity somewhere, it would be adding value to the world.
In Uganda, death is generally sacred. The idea of giving your body to science remains almost unthinkable. Uganda has no formal law on body donation yet. But Professor Mwaka is working on policy guidelines, the first step towards legislation.
We are proposing a bill that will go, that we hope will go to Parliament, then to Cabinet, and if successful, it will be enacted into law.
Sima, however, is not waiting for the law. He believes that every change begins with someone, and that someone is him.
Maybe the diseases that we're suffering from today will be eradicated because of this body not being wasted and decomposing to infinity in the ground.
And back in the classroom, the silent teacher continues to speak through every bone and every lesson. Thanks to people like Sima, perhaps one day he will not stand silent and alone, but among many others who choose to teach and advance science through their final gift.
So what would be your choice?
Yes, what about you? Would you donate your organs to science or keep them with you? Our host Edith Kimani asked this question in our street debate in Kampala. Let's see how people there responded.
Hello and welcome back to the 77% Street Debate. My name is Edith Kimani and this week we are in the home of the cranes, the pearl of Africa. Of course, I'm talking about Kampala, Uganda's capital. And today we're here to ask a question that's almost as grey as the weather. Have you ever thought about what you would do with your body after you die? Now, I know it's a very morbid thought and some people might think maybe burying, maybe cremating, but what about donating? Interesting, huh? Well, that's the question that I'm asking the people here today, drawn from Kampala. And I actually want to start with a general question. How many of you would consider donating either your organs or your body after you die? Let me just see from a show of hands. Okay, we have a very good sizable number. So I'll start with you actually, Letitia. You're the only woman on our panel today, and you're also an investigative journalist here in Kampala. This is not a topic that's new to you, right? Because there's a law that's recently been passed which is supposed to govern at least the harvesting of organs. Talk to me about that. What was happening before?
We have had stories of successful organ transplant. We have had kidneys being transported at Mulago, but it's still shady. Most people do not know even what's happening right now.
Okay, so you're saying it's shady, but before we continue, because there are two issues here. One is organ donation, where you might give your kidney to somebody who's in need, and the other is full body donation. I'm looking at Joseph here because he's a medical student, and you would understand this very, very clearly. So why are these two very different scenarios?
So when we talk about organ donation, we mean that someone who is living will actually give their organs, and when we talk about whole body donation, we mean that actually someone who has lost their life may actually give in their body, and their body may actually be used in research or medical education.
When you flatline, you no longer need your organs, but Letitia, you're saying, I am taking all of them with me to heaven. What's got you to this conclusion?
So I think it's around the narrative that has been sold to me growing up, and now I am no. If the narrative changes, maybe my mindset could change about that topic.
Okay. Fortune is standing next to you. He's a scientist, a man of science, an engineer. You're also taking every single part of you to the grave.
Traditionally speaking, we believe that the transition from one state of life, this is the living, to the dead, the body needs to be taken intact.
You've already made certain steps to ensure that when you die, certain things are done. Tell me about that.
We send our children abroad to go and study medicine, which we believe is better medicine, is because those people have arrived to a certain development where they understand that today we have a pestilence, but tomorrow it will go. And what is helping us arrive to that proficiency?
Okay, but what Fortune is saying is that he doesn't want to risk not being reunited with the ancestors because his limb is with Dr. Joseph here, trying to figure out how to get the next prosthetic.
How are we going to grow?
Okay.
Do we want to keep on begging and relying on Europe and the West?
So without the law or an ability to be able to collect bodies of people who've given them out voluntarily, how are you able to study?
Sad to say, but we use unclaimed bodies.
So when you say unclaimed bodies, these are just people who've happened to die and you just collect them from the morgues? Or?
If someone has died at Mulago and
they have no relatives, they have no next of kin, there was no one around them to actually follow up to know who they are.
So in the absence, first of all, of willing and volunteering people to become cadavers later in their post-life, what does that mean for you guys during your education?
Actually, you find that a single body can be used by approximately 20 students, but that is for Makerere University. There are actually universities that do not have teaching hospitals, meaning that those universities do not have access to unclaimed bodies.
Okay, so to be clear, it is possible to go through your entire medical school without ever dissecting a real human cadaver?
Yeah, that is true.
Doesn't that sound scary to you, Letitia? To imagine that a doctor may one day come and perhaps be expected to be your surgeon when they've never had any practice on a dead body?
Unclaimed does not mean someone consents to being cut. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to donate, but if someone wishes to, let them do. If they do not wish to, that is them.
Until your femur is the one that is fractured. And there is no way I'll, open up to enter that fractured femur to do an internal fixation if I've actually not practiced it on a real human tissue. So I start with the cadaver.
Okay, Fortune, you've been put on the spot here. Perhaps you're the one who will be in need of the femur, as you're saying.
If at all the unclaimed bodies are still accessible to them, why can't we use those to advance science as it is being done?
Because they're not enough. We're hearing here that it's one body for every 20 students.
We need to have bodies to learn from, to learn new techniques. Even as we talk now, someone is discovering a new procedure, but we won't discover it from the textbooks.
Would you give your body to science?
Yeah, I would.
That did not sound very sure.
By the way,
you can also give restrictions on your body. You tell them, maybe after using it, give my body back to their family, and then they bury me in a good way.
Okay, let me just find out if that is practical, Joseph, because I imagine that after a series of specialists have been through your cadaver, is there really anything to be left to be given back to your family?
Of course, sometimes it is impossible to access some tissue without disintegrating maybe that tissue. So in that way, the body can be kept in pieces. That is what I can say.
That I don't want to visualize. So because we have a lawyer in the building, maybe you can tell us actually what would happen in the event that, Brian says, I want my body to be used for a year, but the hospital doesn't follow those instructions. Is there any legal recourse?
It leaves so many blind spots for the exploitation of donors.
Yeah. But, because we're talking about death, somebody might wonder, where does exploitation happen after death? Because you've already left the body, your family is probably content. What's the issue there?
Would you like it if, for example, you died here and vultures descended upon you?
Yeah.
You wouldn't like it. So the idea that when you die, there are no standards now on the body is actually quite debilitating to a person. Yeah.
I get that. Would you give your body to science?
I would still do it because I'm dead. I don't have a use for it anymore, so I definitely would.
Okay, so she says she would be dead. She doesn't care what happens to her body. What about you?
I would not donate my body to be used.
Don't you work in radiology? Are you not a doctor?
Yes, I am, but my family would not allow.
Where are these doctors supposed to get the knowledge from? Are they supposed to go to other countries to get cadavers?
Aside from 3D printed mannequins, there is virtual reality. The humans who are alive, you can actually practice on those.
You don't even want your bodies practiced on when you're dead. Who is going to allow their bodies to be practiced on when they're alive?
The idea is consent.
How practical is it to practice using VR glasses?
So if this is human tissue and I'm putting my blade through it, there is that feeling that I always have towards it. It's me attaching, my personality to everything I do to make me the best doctor that I want to be outside there.
Got it.
And 3D won't give me that.
Human bodies are actually different. And you find that if they make maybe a mannequin, maybe you reach in like a theater, you put it on the body and you find the structure is not there.
Yeah. Even if it was a viable option, we're still a long way from having that tech accessible for every single medical student in this country.
If money is involved, like...
You want to get paid when you're dead?
No. I mean like my family, because...
Okay, well, let me just tell you now, the law does not allow exchange of money for organs or for body parts. So your family won't get paid.
Okay, if that's the case, then I may lose.
Okay, I like your honesty though. Yes, Brian.
We are going to learn how to dip our hands into hard fire. Because when you're dead, you are useless. This is practical.
Will your family, who are not as progressive as you are, will they be able to receive your body back?
All right. Thank you so much for your viewpoints. So at the beginning, we asked the simple question. What are you going to do with your body when you are over to the other side? Donate, rot, maybe burn? Perhaps you need to speak to your families about this before that time comes up. I'm Edith Kimani. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Wow, thanks Edith for handling that really well. As always, you can watch the full debate on our YouTube channel and share your thoughts with us in the comments. From this discussion, we've learned that culture, taboos, and lack of awareness all shape young people's views on organ donation across Africa. In some countries, any tampering with the body after death is strictly forbidden. Even so, some are willing to donate parts of their body rather than let them decay, provided they have given their consent. Now, we want to hear more personal opinions. From Uganda, we'll head to the streets of Nigeria and Ghana to ask people how they feel about organ donation and whether they would consider it themselves.
I would prefer my body to be used for scientific research when I die. My main reason is because over the years, the research concerning the female reproductive health as well as different things that happen to the female body in generally has been underdone.
Since it's going to be a scientific experiment, I think it might actually help others.
The Bible says your body is the temple of God. So if my body is used for something else, I don't subscribe to that.
I believe there are diseases and sicknesses we've not yet found medication to it. So if my body is supposed to be used for scientific experiments, it's going to help the world.
When I'm gone, I'm gone. So the body can be used for anything as long as it's going to use for the purpose of something. So I'm fine with it.
I love to explore personally. So I feel like seeing other people explore my body, trying to research on a particular thing or cure for something, I think something I would definitely want to try out when I'm no more.
Yes, I would. Because I think I owe it to humanity to, at least get some diseases cured or whatever they can find, what data they can find from research like that.
Because of my religion, I'm a Muslim, and in a Muslim way, we do bury our dead body. Maybe the person is dead, says, in the morning, you have to bury the person 4 o'clock, and it's not allowed for anybody to tamper or do anything to the dead body.
From the streets, we went virtual. Our poll on social media says 47% of you will donate your organs after death. 20% said they will not do it, while 33% are unsure. This is not very far from a study that shows strong interest in donation, especially in rural areas, where about 1/3 of people see donation to science as morally acceptable. However, according to experts, many countries in Africa lack the infrastructure to perform transplants. At the same time, the illegal market for organs is estimated to be worth over $1 billion. DW was part of a special investigation by German media that unraveled an organ trafficking scheme in Kenya, showing just how this market works.
This is Amon Kipruto Meli, 22 years old, from a village in western Kenya. Like many young Kenyans, he struggled to find steady income, jumping from one job to the next. One day, a friend told Amon about a quick and easy way to earn a lot of money. Amon was promised $6,000 for his kidney.
They did not explain anything to me. They pointed at people around us and said, look, they donated and they are okay. They are even back at work.
After surgery at a hospital in Eldoret and only a few days of recovery, Amon was paid only $4,000, less than agreed. A short time later, Amon began feeling unwell and fainted. His mother rushed him to hospital, where she was shocked to learn her son was missing a kidney. After finding out he had sold it, she reported the incident to the police. Amon is not the only young Kenyan to fall victim to organ-selling schemes. We discovered one of the companies organizing kidney transplants is called MedLead. It appears Germany is one of its target countries, among others. The demand for organs is high in Germany, where there are not enough donors each year. Sabine Fischer-Kugler turned to MedLead for a kidney transplant and admits she paid a six-figure amount. She says she doesn't regret her decision.
It might have been selfish of me, but I wanted the kidney. The contract terms were in order, but it's clear to me that it's not quite right.
Kenya's Health Ministry commissioned a fact-finding mission to one of the hospitals where kidney transplants have been conducted after allegations of organ trafficking taking place there. The inspectors found transplants were conducted despite poor matching results and in high-risk cases like cancer patients. But their report calling for an official investigation never seems to have been acted upon, a source familiar with the matter told us. The investigator working on organ trafficking cases in Eldoret says he has encountered difficulties.
I feel it's because there are external forces. Being organized crime, there are very powerful people who may be involved, so they can use many ways of blocking.
MedLead states it has a success rate of 98%. While the company regrets that organ rejection can occur in individual cases, it denies any wrongdoing. All donors are said to be 100% altruistic, and MedLead has been operating transparently and in full compliance with the law since its foundation. Researchers say organ traffickers are able to prey on vulnerable poor people thanks to legal loopholes.
There's a legal gray area that this syndicate is exploiting. So because there's no law that prevents you from actually donating your kidney for money, and you cannot be prosecuted for that.
In Amon's case, his mother never heard back from the police after reporting what happened to her son, she says. Amon is now unable to do many jobs requiring physical labor.
If I could go back in time, I would not have said yes to anything. I would not have let them remove my kidney. Even if they tried to persuade me, I would not agree, because right now, I feel like I'm desperate.
Amon says he feels like he's been taken advantage of.
So, what are the laws around organ transplants and donations in African countries? Our reporters in Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya looked into it. We start in Nairobi, where DW correspondent Sela Oneko explains how DW's reporting prompted government agencies to review the entire country's regulations.
Following the DW investigation into young people being paid to sell their kidneys, it became a huge topic of conversation in Kenya. It resulted in a government investigation and put a stop to organ transplants in the hospitals involved in the scandals. A committee found that Kenya lacks a proper regulatory framework, proper monitoring of the hospitals, and care for organ donors. They also found that most kidney donors were young Kenyan men and that records often missed data like nationality and residency, raising ethical concerns. Most burials in Kenya are still very traditional, which means that families want to bury their loved ones with their bodies intact.
The first successful kidney transplantation was done in Lagos back in 2000, and since then, more than 770 kidney transplants have been carried out in hospitals across the country. But here's what is interesting. Almost all of these transplants come from living donors, that is, people who are still alive, usually family or close friends. Across West Africa, only a few countries have transplant programs at all. Even then, it's usually just a few hospitals in major cities. Legally, organ donation is allowed in Nigeria. The National Health Act since 2014 says donation is legal, but selling or buying organs is a crime.
Did you know that the first ever heart transplant was performed by a South African doctor named Chris Barnard in 1967? Despite this pioneering history, South African medical professionals are worried that there simply aren't enough donors in South Africa. There are between 4,000 and 6,500 people awaiting organs each year. A study published in the South African Medical Journal notes that South Africa has some of the lowest organ donor numbers in the world. This means that in many cases, doctors have to approach potential donors' families directly and request consent. And in most cases, the families say no. South African doctors believe there is a potential solution to this problem. They say the law needs to be changed to make it easier for patients to give direct consent to have their organs donated. Remember, one organ donor can save 7 lives.
What will it be? Would you donate your body when you die? Does your country even allow it? Organ transplants and donations have a potential to save lives and advance science. But culture and tradition remain a barrier for some. In other places, regulations don't make the process clear or how ethical it should be. What do you think? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Join the conversation on our social media pages. I'm your host, Fatih Ali Kamuloshi. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.